Right? If you remember yesterday, and even if you don't remember yesterday, so I'll refresh what we learned. What do we learn? That there's a difference between the spies that Moses sent in, a difference to us, the spies that Moses sent in, and the spies that Joshua sent in. Moses sent in 12 spies. Joshua sent in 2. Moses sent in public, advertised, revealed. Joshua sent in secret, hidden. Moses' spies stayed there for 12 days, for 40 days, I'm sorry. They scouted out the whole land of Israel. Joshua's spies, they stayed in Israel. You know, the whole entire thing that they stayed was 3 days, 4 days. At the most, 3 days were in hiding. And he sent them only to scout out Jericho. We just finished learning the mimer in Torah or in Luchuti Torah about that. Moses, of course, failed. Joshua succeeded. So the Rebbe said the fact is that Moses did not really fail. The spies of Moses, in a big way, of course, they did. The Jewish people had to wander around for 40 years in the desert. But in a small way, or if you look, there's a big positive side to this. What happened? What's the positive side? They were the first, first Jews to actually enter the land of Israel. They broke through. And when they went into the land of Israel, the 12 spies of scouts of Moses, as they were all positive. They all had the most positive attitude. Just in the course of time, they changed their mind. Says the Rebbe, this represents 2 ways of refining the world. 2 ways of refining the world. One way of refining the world is in details. Another way of refining the world is generalities. Refining the world in details means that you look at everything differently and act accordingly. That's represented by Moses and the 12 spies that he sent in. Each one was different, each one a different personality, each one was going to be a different part of the land of Israel. They divided the land of Israel into the different tribes, which is not the case Joshua. Joshua was a general way of conquering the land of Israel. In general, it's almost the same thing as someone stands up and gives a general idea, right? Judaism is going to, there's God, and God creates everybody. And the Torah is the truth. That's it. End of message. So that's a general message, changes everybody's whole perspective, but there's no details there. What does it mean? But nevertheless, it gets rid of a lot of false ideas, right? Judaism is the only truth. There's so many other religions. All of them are lies. Really? All of them are lies. Yes, that's what Jeremiah says. Sheker nachal ovotem. All the other religions are all lies, especially the ones that claim to replace Judaism. Judaism, God, Mount Sinai, 7 Noahide commandments, that's it. No, so no, that's it. All the other religions are bad. What are we supposed to do? How are we supposed to do it? Right? There's different people, there's different natures, there's different lands, different customs. How is everybody supposed to react to this? So that's the details. Don't ask me details. Which is not the case of Moses. Moses is talking about the details. But sometimes you can get so much into the details that you forget the generality, right? There's all these laws and what you have to do, but you forget the godliness of the thing. So that's the 2 ways. Moses is the details, more stress on the details. These are 2 different ways of conquering the land of Israel. In other words, bringing godliness into the world. Yeshlomo, we can say, this is what we got up to. These 2 ways of refining the world, namely mitzad dargas ischalkus, whether it is in the differences, in the details. So because of the oneness, unity, but based on finding, these are the two ways of the spies of Moses and Joshua. Generally, you can say, and the same thing with God, right? You look at the world, you can say, see all this world, this whole world, the sky, the stars, the planets, the science is revealing new vistas of creation constantly, new the depths of outer space, new details in creation, the quarks and energy, and it's all one. God is making the whole business. Ooh, this is amazing. God is making the whole entire business. Everything this is amazing, right? Everything is one. Looking at everything as one, it's all godliness. It's all. Then there's another way. You see how many details there are in the world? God is making each and every detail. You ever look at an ant? You know how complicated an ant is? Incredible, right? An ant. How is a nervous system and how it walks? How is that? An ant is different from a beetle, and a beetle is different from a moth. And you know how many ants and beetles there are, and moths there are, different types. So each detail is made by God. Well, that's pretty amazing, right? That's pretty amazing. Let's go. Ma rabu masecho, ma godlo masecho. King David said, "How many are your creations, God? How immense are your creations, God?" In a general way. So there's two ways of approaching the world and affecting the world positively. Moses, by sending his 12 tribes, Shaholchu Torah called Yud Beis, that they went to scout out the 12 portions of the land of Israel that was going to be given to the 12 tribes, as this is in a way of division. This is by means of Ischalkus to Yisrael b'Torah, all the details of the Jewish people and of the Torah, like God said to Moses, send them l'datcha, according to your opinion, your decision. B'chinas adat, shekolu kol chachma v'bina. Dat is an aspect of the soul that includes all the opposites. All the emotions are born from dat. Dat means, it's called uniqueness, my personality, what I'm connected to. Another word for dat is reality. God said to Moses, you want to send these spies, your spies in, then send them according to this is your opinion. In other words, your individuality. Data Adam, the opinion of each and every person. This hints at the descent and the coming of Torah into our mind, how we interpret, how we understand the Torah. That's why these yeshivas are filled with young men sitting and learning the Torah. You sit and learn the Torah, and you are encouraged to have your own ideas and your own interpretation of the Torah. And then you sit in yeshiva and you find out if it's right or if it's wrong. It doesn't, just because you think about it and it's mine doesn't mean it's right. But when you do come to the right conclusion, that's what the whole Talmud is, right? People with different opinions. Below Chula Torah, that's the whole idea of Moses. He is stressing the differences, the uniqueness of every detail. The spies that Joshua sent in, there were only 2, not 12. Below, they did not go to scout out the whole entire land of Israel, only Jericho. That's the menulla, that's like the key of the land of Israel. Shekolet, that includes the whole land. It's the whole entire land of Israel. We said all the nations gathered there in Jericho. This is stressed how approaching the world in a general way. L'mayla mischalkos. Inyan zeh, this is made by means of unity of the Jewish people in the Torah. Lo midato, not each and every individual opinion. This is God commanded him. God did not command. God commanded Joshua to send in. It was not his individual. God did not take Joshua's individuality into account. God said, "You send." Lo mitzad b'chinas hadas, not according to his individual personality and his inner powers and his differences, how he's different from everybody else. Joshua. That God took Joshua's individuality into account. No, God commanded, Kabbalat all, you accept what I say. I don't care about your thoughts. I don't care about your personality, your individuality, your ideas. God commanded, that's one, that's unity. Bittul, negating your personality and your uniqueness to God. To connect it to something that's above any divisions, so that's the difference between Moses and Joshua. Moses, God said, send the spies according to your opinion, and send 12 of them, each representing each different type of Jews in a general way. By Joshua, God said, I don't care about your opinion. We're not dealing with individuality, or we're dealing with generalities. Surrender, everything should be surrendered to me. Two different ways of approaching to God. Both of them are good. Both complement one the other. Yeshlam, we can say that this is also hinted at what? That he sent, Joshua sent 2 men, and he sent them quietly. Shnayim, 2 and not 12, because the service of Kabbalat Ol, of accepting the yoke of God, he says surrendering your individuality to the individuality, to the harmony, to be in harmony with God. That's called bittul. We don't care about all the details. All we care about is just 2 things: doing good and turning from bad. That's Joshua, right? Like if you're in an orchestra, right? You're in an orchestra. You're in the philharmonic, right? They don't care so much about you. You're chosen. You went through the test and they chose you. Now all they're interested in is 2 things: are you playing right or are you playing wrong? That's all. How you play, that was already tested before. That's like Moses coming into the land of Israel. The details are important. But after, when you start to play, the main thing is, are you playing the right thing or are you playing the wrong thing? Surrender. You have to surrender your individuality and your talents and your abilities and your uniqueness and your interpretation. You have to surrender it to the whole entire orchestra. The same thing is, you have to surrender. That's a different way of serving God. Kabbalat Ol, it's called accepting the yoke. That's by every Jew equally, the same thing. Anashim, it says that Moses sent special people. Joshua just sent people. And he sent them quiet. Why? Because when a person serves God with total surrender, so therefore everything he does is quiet. He doesn't want anyone. He's just his connection. It's all between him and God. Yom Tov Yoter, especially what the rabbis say, that the 2 people that Joshua sent in were Kalev and Pinchas. Now, Pinchas was a Levi. Kalev came from the tribe of Yehuda. Kalev ben Yefuna. Kalev, he was the only one that, in addition to Joshua, of course, that he, of the spies that Moses sent in, right, he was the unique one. Moses says over here that Kalev had a different spirit with him. Pinchas, Kalev, right? Now Joshua, he's sending these spies. So Joshua is not one of Kalev. He was together with Joshua. He was one of the 12 spies that Moses sent in. Now Joshua sends him in again. And Pinchas, this is brand new. Pinchas, he was the son of Elazar ben Aaron a Kohen. He was from the tribe of Levi. So therefore, Lama Shalchu, why did Joshua send him to send the land? Levi, it says they haven't got a part. They didn't go into war. They didn't get a part of the land of Israel. Moses sent in the 12 tribes, the 12 spies, because each one was from his own tribe that got a portion in the land of Israel. But Levi didn't get a portion of Israel. So Moses didn't send him. Why all of a sudden now Joshua is sending him? Why? And not only that, Levi, it says that the Anshe Tzavah, they sent in people, men of war. Levites, they didn't go to war. We can say the reason is, like it says, that in the future, the Gemara, the Talmud, it says in the Talmud, in Baba Batra, in the Talmud Baba Batra, it says that in the future, the land of Israel is going to be divided into, Moshiach is going to divide the land of Israel into 13 portions. Shegam Shevet Levi, that also the tribe of Levi, they're also going to receive a portion. Like it says, Sha'ar Levi Echad, that Levi will get one portion as well. It's in Ezekiel. Ezekiel has all these prophecies about the third temple and what's going to be in the future when Mashiach comes. So that Levi is going to get a portion of the land of Israel. Lama lo zachal Levi v'nachlat eretz Israel. Why did Levi usually not get a portion of the land of Israel and bizata and the spoils of war with his brothers? Because Levi, the tribe of Levi, they were separated to serve God. Well, the sharto and to serve God, to be a servant of God. Well, the horot darachav, and to teach Torah to everyone, to all the Jewish people. Levi was supposed to be separate. Like it says, Yorom mishpatecha liYaakov v'Torah liYisrael. Like it says that they will show your laws. This is one of that Moses gave the blessing afterwards, that Levites, they would teach the Torah and the laws of the Torah to all the Jewish people. Therefore, they were separated from the world, and they didn't go out to war like everybody else. They are the soldiers, the army of God. Like it says, Berach Hashem Chelo. God should bless his power. That was the whole miracle of Chanukah, that the Chashmonaim, that they were Levites, Kohanim, they were Kohans, or just Levites, that they fought against these the Greeks, and they're not men of war. The Levites, the Chashmonaim, were not warriors at all. They didn't learn. They were Levites. Levites didn't learn how to fight. God zochalayim, and God gave them merit. God gave them his portion. God said, I'll be your portion. That's when up to now, when Moshiach comes, since then in those days, there'll be tremendous awareness of God and wisdom and truth. Like it says, Kimalo or it's a Deus Hashem, the world will be filled with awareness of God. Lo Yesek, and the whole world will not be interested only in knowing God alone. Shenei, like it says, the world will be filled with the knowledge of God, like the sea fills the ocean. Therefore, Lo Yetzorech Ba'avdallah, the Shevet Levi, and the tribe of Levi won't have to be separated from the world, because the world is going to be perfect. The whole world will be like Levites, only concerned with God. Look, and therefore, the tribe of Levi will get their, just like nowadays the world is concerned with pleasure or comfort or whatever they're concerned with. America's going berserk now with pleasure. You get your pleasure. You have this type of pleasure, that type of pleasure, right? They're just going. They're obsessed with pleasure, sexual pleasure, and money pleasure. Everybody is going after pleasure. That's what people want. Or security. People want security. They want power. In the future, people are only going to be interested in the source of pleasure, the source of security, the source of power. They'll be concerned with the Creator himself. So because of that, the whole world will be like Levi. So we can say that that's why the land of Israel will be divided into 13 portions. This is attached to the unity of the unity which is above any division. 13 is the numerical value of Echad. God is one. Echad is one. That's the gematria numerical value 13, 1, 8, and 4. Chalukah, there, it's the division of the land of Israel in the future will come in a way that God himself, he'll divide the land up. Like it says, Elu machlokatam ne'um Hashem. This is what I'm going to divide up, says God. This is in Ezekiel. Shemizem, moving from this, is understood this division in the future, which hopefully that's going to be now. It should have been a long time ago. The ofen shall achdus, it'll be in a way of unity. Shalochi, and therefore lo kachaluka shall olam hazeh olam haba. Not how the world is divided up now will be the world in the days of the Mashiach. In this world, a person, he's got a field. He has a wheat field. He grows wheat. He doesn't grow vegetables, fruits. Pardes and losada lavan. Usually, people that have They have what's it called? Orchards. Orchards. They don't have the wheat fields. The Olam Haba, when Mashiach comes, says, "Ein lecha kol echad." There won't be any Jew that doesn't have also land in mountain, also in the ground, on the plains, also in the valleys. Like it says, the gate of Reuven will be one, the gate of Yehuda and Levi will be one. God will divide the land himself. The explanation like this in an inner way. And nowadays, the refinement of the world, we're here to refine the world. Refinement of the world is by means of revealing godliness, which is relevant to the world. Like we said before, doing the commandments, physical, learning Torah. And this draws down a small ray of godliness, which is called a smell, a fragrance, which the world can accept. But in the future, after the world is refined, then there will be the level of godliness will be revealed above any division of the world. Simple oneness. By means of the unit, when the Jewish people unite, that the Jewish people will then become like the whole, like all of them will become like the tribe of Levi. Like the Rambam says, not just the tribe of Levi alone should be devoted to God, but anyone who decides that he wants to devote himself to God, that he will be just like the Kohanim and the Leviim. That's what the Rambam says. Where is it in the laws of? Here it is. The laws of Shemitah. Right. And even more detail, this is the difference between how it is when the world will be filled with the knowledge of God to filled with the knowledge of God. That's one thing. Then there's another level, like water fills the ocean. That the world will be filled with the knowledge of God in the days of the Moshiach means that there will be a world. There'll be a land, but the land will be filled with the awareness of God. Why? Because there'll be awareness of God according to the levels of the land, right? Like something like the Holy Temple. There was the Holy of Holies, there was the Holy, there was the outer courtyard, there was Jerusalem, there were different levels of holiness. This is like Torah, how it comes down into the world in the limitations of the world. That's the world will be filled with the knowledge of God, but there's something more. Like water fills the ocean. That the whole existence, the fact that there's a world, will be covered totally with the awareness of God. Torah, the wisdom of God, and God himself are one. That by means of drawing down into the world will be recognized, that the existence of the whole world is just a revelation of God's oneness. So there will be other distinctions in the world, but everything will just be an expression of this amazing oneness of God. It's almost like when an orchestra plays some sort of a beautiful piece, right? And you listen to the piece, you see, wow, listen, how that violinist, especially if you're an expert, I heard this, a long story, but I can't go into it now, that the Toscanini once heard on the radio one of his pieces being played somewhere, I think Toscanini, being played somewhere, and he said to someone standing there, the second violin is missing, right? There was 100 people in the orchestra. He could hear every detail. That's what you could see. Oh, this one is great and this one is great. That's how the world is now. In the future will be, you'll just hear the whole symphony, like one, everything detail in the world will be one symphony expressing godliness. It's not that the details won't be there. Exactly the opposite. The details won't, but you'll feel the oneness of God. Like the rabbis say, everything that God created in the world, he created for his glory. And there is no glory except for the Torah. Like the Rambam says in the beginning of his book, that this foundation of foundations and the very pillar of wisdom is you have to know that there is a first existence. And all that exists only comes because of God's existence. This is what the Torah says, Ein od milvado. The Torah declares that there's nothing except for God. It was, how do we know that God is one? How do we know that the whole world, because the Torah says so. Yesh Lomar, that's what it says, and that's what's going to be in the future. The whole world will realize the amazing goodness, or you say preciousness of the Torah. The Torah is really what's creating everyone. It's being created through the Torah. Who would believe such a thing like that? But that's the Holy of Holies will spread out to the whole world. Yet what was in the Holy of Holies? The Torah, the 2 tablets. Islam, we can say that the preparation for this completion, that the world will be in the future totally one. It'll express the oneness and the harmony with God. This will be that the Eretz Israel will be divided into 13 tribes. Also, Levi will get one. In other words, the fact that God's oneness will be revealed in the whole world does not in any way detract from the diversity of the world. In fact, the land of Israel will be divided into one more division. Al Yadei, by means of the unity of all the Jewish people in the Torah, because 13 is the numerical value of 1, echad. By means of this, by means of the unity of the Jewish people and the Torah, which was begun by means of sending the spies by means of Joshua. Joshua sent in who? Pinchas, the Levi. That Levi would also have a part. This hints at the future redemption. Shahosif al Shlichus the Moshe. This it adds to what Moses sent. In addition to Kalev and the 12 spies that Moses sent, he also sent Pinchas from the tribe of Levi. That's 13, the Gematria Echad, 1. So this hints at the future redemption, with the oneness of God will be revealed, and then there'll be even, so to speak, more distinctions in the world to contribute to this harmony and oneness of all being. And it all depends on the Torah, as we're going to talk about and discuss, God willing, tomorrow. Tomorrow is Friday, but I hope that God will finish this Sikha tomorrow on Friday. Meanwhile, let's do the Yom Yom for today. Yom Yom. Also today, there will be a class at 3 o'clock. Refrain right. Let's just translate. Avoiding pleasure in this world is a preparation for serving God, but it's not serving God. Turning away from fulfilling your desires and your lusts, that is not serving God. This is a preparation for serving God. Serving God means transforming the physical, your body, the world, into a vehicle, a vessel for godliness. Using the world, using your thoughts, in other words, doing good. Serving God is doing good. And avoiding bad is just a preparation for doing good. As we'll talk about more, God willing, tomorrow. Thank you, everybody, for coming. And God willing, 3 o'clock, we'll learn the Haftorah of this week. We'll also learn the last part of this week's Torah portion, tzitzis. We didn't learn about the tzitzit. We didn't do it yesterday. We didn't have time. God willing, we'll do that. And we will also do the Haftorah, Joshua, sending in the spies that we're talking about over here. And God willing, time allowing, we'll do the next chapter in Pirkei Avot, the pupils of Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai. Pretty interesting. Tune in. Hope to see you at 3 o'clock.